go over just some Serenbe information so that I can point out as much as possible as we're driving and not have to pause. But so my name is Garni Nygren. This is my family's project. So we'll just give a brief kind of how we got here in as much as I can in 5 minutes. How many people are from Atlanta or have been in Atlanta since the early 80s? Is that kind of, okay, so in 1991, my dad, Steve Nygren, started the Peasant restaurants in Atlanta in the early 70s, which was Mixed, Peasant Pleasant, Daily, City Grill. And in 1991, we were living in Ansley Park on 17th Street, and my mom saw an ad for an old 1905 farmhouse on 60 acres. And my dad said, he'd grown up on a working farm in Colorado and swore he would never go back and didn't want a weekend home. And my mom said, let's just go see it. And that's what's now the inn. And so they came and saw it, and 2 weeks later my mom said, I don't know why, but we have to buy it. And we spent 3 years here coming on the weekends and staying in a little 500 square foot cottage. I have 2 younger sisters. Staying in a little 500 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom cottage that had been built in 1945. Leased out what's now the main house. And after 3 years had fallen in love with the quality of life of breathing fresh air and having green space. And having all of that 25 minutes from the airport and 40 minutes from Midtown. So we sold the house in Ansley. My dad sold the Peasant restaurants, and we moved here full-time for what my dad thought was going to be his early retirement. And from 1995 to 2000, really, my dad was what we joke now, the gentleman farmer. So all of the gardens and grounds that are at the inn was what he did. Put in all of the trails. He'd spend most of the days on tractor, bush hogging trails, etc. And then in the fall of 1999, we had about 300 acres, so it had gone from 60 to 300 acres. And my dad and I were running on one of our jogging trails coming back to our house, and we came upon someone bulldozing, clear-cutting 25 acres. In 1999 was the height of the sprawl of Metro Atlanta, as many of you know. And my dad thought, okay, here comes a neighborhood, here comes a subdivision, here comes a strip mall, and our quality of life is going to be destroyed overnight. Because Metro Atlanta had not gotten a grasp of what the word regional planning meant in 1999. And we couldn't get in touch with the landowner who was clear cutting the 25 acres, so my dad started calling all of our other neighboring landowners, and for one reason or another, they all wanted to sell. He was not calling them to buy their land, just to introduce himself. And they had tax bills they couldn't pay, family members had passed away, they were moving. So my dad went into pure panic mode, thinking that whoever was putting in houses on that 25 acres was certainly going to also call those neighboring landowners and buy all of their property. And so he put it all under contract. And we had another 500 acres, so almost 800 acres in 5 weeks. And found out that our neighbor was putting in an airstrip for his small prop plane. We had 800 acres. And my dad said, okay, well, it's an airstrip this time. It's bound to be houses next time, because even at that point, the Atlanta Regional Commission had drawn a circle around Atlanta to define Metro Atlanta. We are within that circle of where you sit now, and we're the last area within that circle of the definition of Metro Atlanta to be undeveloped. You are equidistant to Midtown that Alpharetta is from where you sit right now. So everything else around Metro Atlanta, every other direction, has been developed, except for this area. You're sitting in the middle of what's now Chattahoochee Hill Country. So we are a 40,000 acres in Fulton County, 65,000 acres between 4 counties of completely contiguous, undeveloped green space. That's roughly half the size of the inside of the perimeter of Atlanta. So 65,000 acres. 40,000 acres is the size of Napa Valley, just context of the amount of undeveloped green space. So my dad realized, okay, this is the next area. This is the last area that's this large, that's undeveloped in Metro Atlanta. And we're 25 minutes from the airport. We're closer to the airport than any other area that's north, east, or west. So development is inevitable. So started in 2000, said, okay, I'm going to run out of money if I keep buying land to do nothing with it. Having been a business person and also someone who understands, who loves the land and understands the need for green space, there has to be a way that the two can coexist. That development and preservation can go hand in hand. And this was 1999, early 2000, when sustainable development, protecting green space was were not words that developers or was part of the development lingo. So he started traveling around the country looking for development to bring back here because he had no desire to become a developer, and could not find anyone in the country that was doing what he wanted, from a land use plan, from a preservation standpoint, commercial architecture, all of those components. There were certainly communities that were doing them individually, but not the combination. The most significant trip that set the course for the Chattahoochee Hill Country, the area that we're in, is he went to a place called Prairie Crossing outside of Chicago, which is a family that became developers to develop their 2,000-acre farm, 45 minutes outside of Chicago. Very similar story to us, wanted to protect the quality of life and the green space, so began development to do that, developing only 30% of their land and 70% permanently protected green space. And my dad went there thinking this is going to be the model for land use. Well, what it became a model for is my dad realizing that we weren't thinking big enough, just thinking about our 1,000 acres. And it was that trip that set the course of the Chattahoochee Hill Country. So what happened in Prairie Crossing was they had a great land use plan on their property, but all of the traditional development came around them to use their green space, but they didn't change the way they were developing. So we said, okay, if we do something correctly here on our 1,000 acres, it's going to be great, but we will eventually be an island in the sea of Metro Atlanta's suburbia. So in 2000, took a step back from doing anything initially on this 1,000 acres and started what ended up only being a 1.5 year process. And at the end of that 1.5 years, the first 6 months was bringing all of the large landowners together. The next 6 months was a public process, working with all landowners from the smallest to the largest. At the end of that year, we had a land plan, both zoning guidelines, land plan, that we went to Fulton County and said, we would like you to enforce this zoning overlay on this 40,000 acres. We had to deal with just Fulton County because all of the counties, the land within the 4 counties was unincorporated. So dealing with just Fulton County first. And that passed with Fulton County unanimously. So a 1.5 years later, we had what we now call the Chattahoochee Hill Country. I know this is a lot of information, but it's important to what Serenbe is. The Chattahoochee Hill Country, and what that overlay says is that in the 40,000 acres, we cap development at 40,000 homes. So in 100 years from now, we will only build 1 house per acre. So we did not downzone. We didn't come in and take away anybody's property rights. We said on AG1, R1, everybody was allowed to build 1 house per acre, and we were going to cap it there. So 40,000 homes on 40,000 acres. Then we allowed for what's called transfer development rights. So we're the first place in the state of Georgia in the southeast. We had to change state laws to allow for what's called transfer development rights. So transfer development rights means that you're both required to by zoning, and in some places can opt to transfer densities. So at Serenbe we have 1,000 acres, which means we can build 1,000 homes. We're required by our zoning to build on no more than 40%, and on Serenbe we'll build on 30%. So we'll build 1,000 homes on 300 acres and have 700 acres of permanently protected green space. So as a developer, we get the net yield of 1 house per acre, but we're having to do it on less land per zoning. As you model that out on the 40,000 acres, as we grow over the next 20 to 30 years, as a development community, we will build 40,000 homes, 38,000 new homes, because there were only 2,000 homes here to begin with on the 40,000 acres, on 16 to 30% of the 40,000 acres, so saving anywhere between 70 and 80% of the green space. When we came forward with this plan, we knew that the development community, the financial community was going to say, okay, that's all great, warm and fuzzy that we're saving green space, but are we taking away the development community's right to make money? Because that's also extremely important. And we'll look at this map when we go back, but we proved that if we did studies of Metro Atlanta, and this was in 2000, of what the development community actually was yielding per acre, so not theoretical, but what we were yielding, we as a development community were disturbing 80% of a 40,000 acre area to only accommodate 30,000 homes. So with this plan, we as a development community will yield an additional 10,000 homes on 40 to 60% less land. So just what that means is we're selling more housing units per acre and having to put in less infrastructure and disturb less land to do it. And people are willing to pay anywhere from 10 to 30% more to have homes that are adjacent to or back up to permanently protected green space than they are on other sites. So we're selling more homes at a higher value and spending less money on infrastructure. So it's a win for the development community. It's a win for the community that's already here, the existing community, because the green space is protected, the rural character is protected, and it's a win for the local governments because they have more taxpayers paying into, they have more taxpayers, but they're servicing less land. So police, fire, parks, recreation is all happening on less land. So that's the greater land plan. And then our Serenbe's plan, which I'll go over quickly and then we'll drive, is so we have 1,000 acres. We didn't want to come in and just build 1,000 acre neighborhood on 300 acres with 700 acres of permanently protected green space. We also wanted to get back to sense of place, creating community and sense of place. So we have 4 neighborhoods planned in total. Those 4 neighborhoods will bring us to anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 homes. You are in the middle of the first neighborhood now, and we're going to look at a map after, which will make more sense. But you're in the first neighborhood now, which is Selborne, all focused on art and culture. Selborne in total will be about 120 homes. We're 95% complete on a residential standpoint. The biggest component that's not here is we have 200,000 square feet of commercial office and restaurant space that's going to be directly to your left here, and it will be a series of buildings that create a U around a village green that'll open to the street. That building has been designed by Max Scoggin and Merrill Elam, who are fairly well-known architects based out of Atlanta, but really celebrated internationally, with the village green done by Reed Hildebrand out of Boston. Our second neighborhood, Grange, which we're headed to, is all focused on agriculture. So that's our organic farms, the horse stables, significantly less commercial, so only 1 restaurant and 4 shops. So if people want to live in Serenbe but don't want to be in the middle of a few thousand people on the weekends visiting, shopping, eating, they can live in Grange, but be a 10-minute walk through the woods to Selborne to get a latte, chocolate chip cookie from the Daisy, etc. Our third phase, which has been entitled, but we don't have infrastructure yet, is focused on health and wellness. Will be about 250 residential units, have plans for assisted and independent living, medical offices, fitness center, destination spa, boutique hotel. We think we will lead that phase with commercial actually before we build a single rooftop. We have a huge amount of interest in our assisted and independent living site because we are leading what we think is going to be the newest, the 5.0 version of assisted and independent living, where we will build buildings that are part of the community and integrated into the community without gates, because as baby boomers, there are so many studies coming out that baby boomers are going to refuse, if they can, to live in the current 55 and older gated community models where you're not in an integrated community